Launch code. Access granted. A millionaire.
Hello, welcome to this Microsoft Excel lesson. I am your host and instructor, Ruben Herrera. And on this lesson, my friends, we're going to continue with our video lesson on pivot tables. So let us continue. So this is where we stopped last time, and I was also mentioning in our last lesson that pivot tables are not meant to be static, meaning that they don't mean to stay the same way. So for example, right here, notice how I have right here, I have my sales reps like this. Right here, I have them on rows, and then I have my regions on columns right here. I can also come over here and I can destroy my pivot table completely, and I can put over here now, you see, I can put my fields on my pivot table on a different order. You see that? Now I have the regions right here. I used to have them right here on columns, and now I have my sales representatives right here on columns now. Okay, I can actually uncheck this. Okay, very nice. And I'm going to do my pivot table again. I'm going to do now sales rep region here, and I'm going to do my cells in here. You see, very nice. Now I have it the way I initially envisioned my report. Now, one of the things that I like to do with my pivot table also, I mentioned also in at the beginning that I like to go in here into design, and I like to change my report right here to show in tabular form. This is just a personal best practice that I have for myself. Okay, very nice. Now, starting right here, notice that whenever I create my pivot table, my friends, I have not one but two additional tabs. These two additional tabs, these are tabs that I can use for additional options and to modify and to format my pivot table. Okay, so I'm going to start backwards a little bit, and I'm going to start first with a design tab. And one of the things that I'm going to do show right here is this right here, the grand totals button right here. Notice that I can right here turn off my grand totals on my pivot table. You see that? Very nice. I can also have my grand totals back on for both columns and rows. I can also have it on just for rows. Okay, or I can also have it on just for columns. But on this case, most of everyone likes to have their grand totals both for rows and columns. So I'm going to leave it like this. Very nice. Also, depending on the design that you have of your pivot table right here, you can also have right here your row headers. Okay, you can put right here you can format your headers right here, or your column headers if you have anything in here, but in this case I don't. I can also have right here banded rows or banded columns, depending what is easier on your eyes, what is easier to see. I don't think both will look very nice. Okay, and also you have right here a gallery with different styles so that you can color your pivot table. Some of these colors are very pretty, and some of these colors are not very pretty. Me personally, I like to use that second one right here on that medium gallery. I think it's a pretty good one, and it looks very similar to for what I'm trying to accomplish right here. Almost the same type of blue, but it is close enough. Okay, very nice. So very nice. So now my pivot table is looking better and better every time. Now, the next thing I want to do is, because I am talking about these numbers right here, I am talking about this is money, these are dollar values. And what I like to do, I like to add the currency symbol to my numbers in here. Most people like to do this. They like to select this range right here, and then they go in here to the home tab, and they like to click right here on the currency symbol. Okay, this is not a wrong way to do this, but it's not also the correct one. The correct way, because And the reason why, because as you remember that pivot tables, my friends, are meant to pivot. And if you pivot your pivot table, as you add or delete more rows on your pivot table, depending on how you are pivoting or filtering your pivot tables, uh, that formatting that you apply to this specific range of cells is going to stay just here. Okay, so but I want my formatting of my pivot table to go along with my pivot table should my pivot table information increase or decrease. So what we need to do, we need to try to stick as much as we can to the formatting to the formatting options that are given to us for our pivot tables right here on these two tabs. It's somewhat limited, but it's best if we just try to stick to this. Unless you absolutely need to, otherwise you can go here to the home tab and you can use other type of formattings here. But I like to stick with this right here with what I have right here. Okay, so to add the currency symbol right here to my pivot table, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go right here. First, I'm gonna make sure that I click right here on just one cell in here on my pivot table. I'm gonna click right here on the Analyze tab on my ribbon, and I'm gonna click right here on Field Settings. Okay, Field Settings, and I'm gonna get this next. I'm gonna get this dialog box. I can also just click right here on my pivot table, and then right here on the pop-up menu, click on Value Field Settings. Yeah, it's named in two different ways, okay, but it's gonna take me to the same dialog box, the exact same thing. Then I'm gonna click right here on Number Format, and then on the next dialog box, you probably guys know where I'm going. I'm gonna click right here. I like to use accounting. That's what's gonna add. That's the formatting that is gonna add my currency symbol. I'm gonna click OK. I'm gonna click OK one more time, and boom, there you go. There is my currency symbol right here on my pivot table. And as I pivot my pivot table, or as my pivot table increases or decreases, uh, you know, uh, it's this formatting is gonna go along with me. Very nice, my friends. Um, very good. Now, the next thing I want to show my friends is this. Um, the default behavior of the pivot table is that if we were to change any information in here in our database, well, first of all, in the last lesson, I mentioned that you cannot change your information, your numbers here on your pivot table. You cannot cheat, okay? So you will have to change your information right here from your database first. And the default behavior of a pivot table is that whenever you change your information here on your database, it should automatically change right here on your pivot table. But if it doesn't, just in case, if it doesn't, it should refresh after you save your Excel workbook or after you close and open your Excel workbook. But if it doesn't, or okay, you can always click right here where it says refresh, and on this refresh button, it'll refresh the filter or the data on your pivot table, and it should update your information according to your original database. Okay, very nice. Um, the next thing I want to show is this. For example, I'm looking at all these cells in here. Notice that now my pivot table looks very nice, and it looks just like my result wanted, almost like my result wanted anyways. Now remember, my friends, I create this on my own. So that I can show you this as an example of how I wish my pivot table to look like, but this is not going to be created for you, okay? Uh, Very good. So now what I'm looking at all my cells, or my supervisor is looking at all these cells with me, and we're looking at this lady right here. I hope I can pronounce her name. Her name is Sheila Dawn. Sheila Dawn, this woman right here, look at her. $520,000, more than $500,000 on sales. She is kicking everybody's butt at the national level and at the office level, at the individual office level. She's not on the top sales, by the general office, but her office on the northeast, okay, region has the highest sales and is the busiest office out of everybody else's. And I like to see how Miss Sheila Dan is doing it. She's doing great. She's kicking some major butt in here. So what I'm going to do, my friends, I'm just going to double click in here. Boom. And look at what happened. Excel creates a separate table report for me, and it's giving me all the transactions that Miss Sheila Dunn has for the Northeast region. And I can see day by day how great she is doing and what she's doing. Very nice. Now, these we learn uh, in another Excel lessons on how we learn how to create tables on how to transform a spreadsheet into a tables. So this is what it is. This is just not a database, but this is just a report just for the Northeast region created from your pivot table. However, this report right here, it is a table that is independent from your pivot table and your database. So this report right here, however, is no longer linked to neither your database or your pivot table. Very nice. And this is a very quick way to analyze somebody's information. I'm going to go back to my pivot table in here, and I'm going to see somebody else's. Let me see. Look at right here, Mr. Steven right here. Also very close to Miss Sheila Dan, but not quite there. But his office is second place. It looks like it is in second place from Miss Sheila Dan. So I want to see how Mr. Steven is doing. So I'm going to just double click in here. Cha-ching! There you go. Now I have a report created, a table report created for the Northeast region for Mr. Steven. And I can see with more detail how Mr. Steven is doing. Very nice, my friends. So on this lesson, we just learned some of the basic formatting options that we have for our pivot tables, and then we also learn how to do a table report. It is very simple. It's just by double clicking on the values of our pivot table. Thank you very much for being on this lesson, and I hope that you guys have a great day.
Launch code. Access granted.